Good evening. I want to thank you very much for coming to the city of North Pole on Tuesday, January 20th, 2024, to our regular council's meeting. Madam Clerk, can you go ahead and call the roll?
Sure. Before I call the roll, Mr. Keller has an excused absence and Mr. Welch does as well, Mayor Welch. Mr. Jacobson?
Present.
Mr. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Church? Here. Ms. Clack? And I apologize, Mr. Skips also has an excused absence, so that, yes, we're at quorum.
Okay, thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as Larry gives us the convocation.
Please, gentlemen, remove your hats. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Help us to have calm minds, cool heads, great thoughts, and remember that our community is what is most important. Bless us in our decisions, our thoughts, and our patience. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Jacobson and Church. Approval of the minutes from,
Nope, we have to take a
oh,
vote.
excuse me, take a vote.
Did anybody want to amend anything on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay. To approve the agenda, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
And Ms. Clack. That brings us to the approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes from 1/2/2024.
Larry, you gonna move?
I move to approve the minutes from January 2nd, 2024.
A second.
Moved.
Thank you, Benny.
Moved by Mr. Church, seconded by Mr. Williams. Roll call, Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
and Mr. Williams.
I'd also remind all council members to bring the microphone closer to them so that the listening audience can hear.
Larry's going for 2.
Okay, and that brings us to communications from the mayor.
Well, I have to say I had a pretty good week. I got to meet with some of our representatives. So doing that, Representative DeBert mentioned that Dan Sullivan had a chance to meet with some delegates in DC on our same platform that we're interested in our ordinance that we did. So let me pull that real quick. On the railroad.
The legislative priority.
Yeah, the legislation priority list that we have.
That was on the last meeting. I don't have that on this agenda.
So that would have been 2024 -02.
Correct.
Okay. And so what she was saying is that he is also in the process of seeing if they will go ahead and start trying to work on that from Delta to the border, with the fact of being able to help us in Fairbanks as well as being able to help the military. So she asked me to make sure that I reach out to all of our North Pole citizens to floodgate his information with support to help us get this going, with the fact being it also will help us with the ore, which will also help with the fact that the, 95-foot 16-wheeler won't be on the road as much as we can get this up and running. So please, anybody that's interested, wanting to get a hold of Lisa Makowski and Dan Sullivan, that will be really great. With that being said, we also had good conversation with Scott Kawasaki, and letting me know if there was anything that I'll ever need or need some help in, just reach out to him and he'll see what he can do. With that, is there any questions of the mayor? Okay, seeing none. That's closed.
And that brings us to citizens' comments. Citizens' comments are limited to 5 minutes or for anything that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
And first we have here Howard Rixey.
Good evening. I'm Howard Rixey, the current president of the North Pole Community Chamber here. My address is 5631 Old Valdez Trail, Salcha. I just want a couple updates, and then with your permission, I'd like to read a letter from the board to the council and the mayor.
Go ahead.
So first off, we have our new board officers there. So as I mentioned, I'm the president. Our vice president is Terry Renson, secretary Jeff Bartlett, and our treasurer is Allison Sylvia. Along with that, there yesterday we did a kind of a strategic retreat to kind of solidify our focus and what our 24 efforts are going to be in our division of work. We're really excited about that year and what it'll bring to the North Pole community. And so with that, I'd like to read a board approved letter from our last meeting. And it's really a request from the board to the city council. So on behalf of the North Pole community, the North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce is coming to you to implore you to stand up and champion the city's mantra of where the Christmas spirit lives year round. Specifically, we are urging you as a body to craft and adopt an appropriate ordinance to modify or amend the Title IV Revenue and Finance, Chapter 4.12 Property Tax of the city's municipal code for the purposes of facilitating a one-time tax incentive for new or existing businesses to change their outer frontage decor to project a more visible presence of the Christmas spirit. Residents in our community and the surrounding area are our ambassadors. They are our host to thousands of family, friends, and other visitors. So too are the businesses in our community. What makes our community so special is our brand, which is grounded in our mantra of where Christmas spirit lives year round, which stems back to our founding. Yet those who live, work, and visit us find themselves longing for finding visible signs of that spirit throughout the community beyond just the Santa Claus house. The Santa Claus house is a signature model of the Christmas spirit, and patrons are swept up in the moment and adore the magnificence of that enterprise. The foot traffic and number of photos taken at the Santa Claus house are a testament to its economic impact. Even City Hall adorns itself with the Christmas spirit decor with the big sleigh out front, getting similar foot traffic and photo moments. Over the last few decades, there have been multiple attempts to inspire businesses and residents to embrace this campaign to no avail. Money has always been the greatest barrier. Businesses who embrace this challenge are likely to spend several thousands of dollars to incorporate the Christmas spirit into their frontage decor. Such an added cost dissuades businesses to make such a capital outlay. Businesses need an incentive. We propose the city adopt a one-time property tax exemption rebate or some other instrument for any business, new or existing, who incorporates Christmas spirited decor into a prevailing portion of their frontage decor. This proposal is an economic development initiative The more prevalent the Christmas spirit is portrayed in our community, the longer visitors will stay and impact our commercial enterprises. That impacts our sales tax income. This proposal will also very likely impact property values too. So in the end, this proposal is an upfront investment with long-term enduring return on the tax base. What will such a proposal cost the city? Let's use the North Pole Eye Care and Dr. Marshall's office property as an example. Taxable value is approximately $964,000, mill rate of 15.571, which North Pole's portion is 3.5 mils. So the taxes is approximately $15,000. The North Pole's portion is being approximately $3,300. We urge the whole city council to immediately embrace this proposal. However, if no council member is willing to sponsor the initiative, since it's an economic development initiative, we urge the city council to convene the economic development committee to develop this proposal for further city council consideration. In service to the North Pole community, signed by me. And then we have attached some examples of pictures of storefronts and whatever that we're trying to project here. And I have copies of this letter, and I'll give it to Ms. Emily
Thank
for
you.
distribution to y'all.
That was going to be my next statement. Can we have a copy of that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Howard.
I have a question for you, Mr. Rixey.
That's
Uh,
Mr. Dixon.
Are you familiar with the community of Leavenworth, Washington?
I am not. Is it a Christmas town?
It is a Christmas town with a Bavarian themed throughout the community. That it used to be a logging town in the 50s, and when the logging industry collapsed, the residents and leaders decided they needed to do something to inject new life into the community, and so they decided upon a theme, and that was an Alpine Christmas. And so much like your letter speaks to, they came up with the design standards that they encouraged businesses to adopt, and they provided tax incentives and things like that to get that going. And now it's a very successful enterprise where people go to enjoy Christmas in Leavenworth, because it's amazing.
Just a response to that, as you described it, I recall, because we did a Google research on what was our Christmas towns, most notable Christmas towns. And I think North Pole, Alaska is ranked number 30. And but your example was one of the ones that was in the high ranking ones. So and it's a prime example of what we're trying to achieve here. So great question.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Howard.
Next person up for citizens' comment is Tammy Wilson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'd like to share an email that I recently sent for those of you who may not have had time to read it and the responses that I received. Good evening. This went to Chief Dutra. I have studied the ordinance as well as information we have obtained to understand how this ordinance, the safety ordinance, makes the community any safer than what current statute and regulation already allows. The state of Alaska, one, North Pole police officers are already writing tickets concerning all the statutes and regulations referred to in this ordinance. The state allows 30 days to fix a ticket and have it dismissed. If the violator does not fix the violation, then a fine plus a surcharge is then charged, assuming the violator has not chosen to take the matter to court. Between October 1 and November 20th, 2023, North Pole Police wrote 2 tickets based on 13 AAC 04.202A. Motor vehicles must have 2 headlights between 24 and 54 above the ground. Fine is $40 plus a surcharge. 6 tickets based on 13 AAC 04223, tinted windows, fine $170 plus surcharge. 1 ticket based on 13 AAC 04.145, use of lights in color, not authorized, fine $70 plus surcharge. The other tickets written during this time period were for violations not included in this ordinance. The proposed North Pole ordinance, beginning on line 23, any person who violates the provisions of this chapter will be guilty of a minor offense. Fine found on line 81, $100 first offense correctable, $250 second offense, and $300 for the third offense. Beginning on line 24, a second or subsequent offense committed after a period of 7 days, basically day 8, shall result in an impound on the subject vehicle, not might, shall. In case of impound, the owner of the vehicle shall pay all costs of the impound, including towing and storage fee, which from my understanding is a minimum cost of $500. 3, beginning on line 30, fines or violations are separate from and in addition to all other remedies authorized by law or equity. So again, I ask the question, why is a separate ordinance necessary when tickets are already able to be written and fines imposed? Second, where is North Pole going to put the cars that are impounded on day 8? I appreciate the offer to meet in person, but since it has been said that there is so much misinformation, misunderstanding, having the answer in writing helps everyone to understand what this ordinance does and the reason for it. And so I think it's really important to share the response as well. First of all, I want to say how much I respect Chief Dutra, but I was really upset by the responses that I received. The first one was done at 7:23 on January 15th. I won't be responding to these questions or any other questions surrounding this proposal via email. Happy to chat in person. Looking forward to hearing from you. And then about 10 minutes later, I got this. Tammy, good old fashioned small town conversation can help bridge differences and help clear the air and misunderstanding. Please come by and chat rather than this 4 to 5 people bombarding the council and me with emails. It's so big city or big government gotcha politics, and I don't think it's necessary. That is not conducive to building good community relationships and helping one another understand each other. Face-to-face meetings are more productive to problem solving in our small town. Hope you have a great night, and I look forward to chatting. This wasn't a gotcha. We've done a lot of research trying to figure out why a separate ordinance is necessary, and very concerned that on day 8, it says you shall have your car impounded for a headlight being out. That just seems very extreme. So that's why we keep asking the same question. And the reason I sent this email is because I got questions from a group that we meet for District 33 every Tuesday night saying that they had sent different emails asking basically the same question and haven't been able to get them responded. I personally think having a discussion in the public versus in a back room where, again, I might interpret what's been said in a different way somebody else would. And if we're saying something that is incorrect, I absolutely agree that we should have it corrected. And so if it's in an email form, then it's very easy to say, I asked the question and here's the response. Not that I had a meeting and this is what I think they meant, by that information. I know you plan on having a conversation on the 5th of February, but my understanding is that's just between you and whomever you bring to it. I think this is the question we asked from day 1. Why is this necessary? Why can't we do it without it? And what exactly are you trying to have for the tool in your toolbox? Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Are there any council members that have any questions?
To have the answer.
The next person up for citizens' comments is Rita Trometer. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Rita Trometer from here in North Pole. I am a co-owner with my husband of rental properties in the area, and we've been here for an extended period of time from January of '88. So with that being said, good evening to you all, City Council. I am here this evening to speak regarding the hazardous vehicle ordinance 2023-17 that you guys will be voting on February 5th. 4th, somewhere in there at your meeting. On behalf of many citizens, including myself, who live in or travel through the North Pole City on a daily basis, one would expect the home of Santa Claus to celebrate Christmas year-round as described in your tourist advertising. After reading through the ordinance in detail from the November meeting that we had here, I still don't understand how this ordinance can make our community safer for residents. Currently, the North Pole City officers are following the state Alaska statutes to enforce laws. Someone does an infraction, they get cited under the state law, citation is wrote or warning is given. Then why would North Pole City need to have their own ordinance number to do what the officers are currently doing? Stopping vehicles, finding vehicles issues, and noting in a ticket of corrections. What I and others missing that is not noted, the reason or the reasons for the need for the extra ordinance. Officers have been writing extreme amounts of infractions over the last several months under Alaska state statutes, which is the reason we do not need to have a North Pole ordinance to do the job that they are currently doing. I just don't comprehend why a group of council members would want to destroy our little town's biggest tour attraction of being the little town with Christmas spirit year-round to be known as the town to avoid due to the police force that is waiting on site for your violations, driving in and around North Pole limits to enjoy your Christmas spirit. This past month, I spoke to many who work in or own businesses here in city limits. They say they are always watching their rearview mirrors when they really should be looking out their windshields. Their customers don't like coming into the city anymore. North Pole is creating a name that is only the start of what's going to be printed in pamphlets and articles. You are working to destroy our community. I ask you to reverse your destruction by forming a group to help make vehicles safe, not with the stroke of a pen, but with compassion and humanity. You have many garage stalls at City Hall. Make one of them for repairs. Check for car seats. Tie up that bumper that's falling down. Fix the broken wire on the headlight or the tail light. Be a kind, thoughtful city instead of a city of harassment for a fee. Obviously, there is a reason for this ordinance 2317 that is unwritten. Maybe it is North Pole has a secret, the council does. Maybe it is a plan in the making. Share your reasoning so myself and others can understand what your real intent is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any council members have questions?
See none? Thank you.
The next person up for citizen comments is Barbara Haney.
Greetings. How you doing this evening?
Hello.
I'm a little short.
evening.
And I think these microphones are like an assembly. You have to almost eat them to talk into them.
But you can slide it in a little bit more. There's extra cord.
Anyway, first I want to thank you for, I always am in awe of the beautiful decorations outside as I drive in. That is a part of North Pole I love. When I first moved out here many years ago, I don't live in the city limits, okay? I live halfway in between Fairbanks and North Pole, but I've always preferred to go to North Pole. There was a time in late 90s, early 2000s where there was a different vibe in North Pole, and it wasn't what I would call a particularly positive one. And there were some changes. We got a new mayor, new police force, things began to get better. I started coming more into town. Put the kids in the swim team, just had my grandson swimming. Last week at Family Swim. I get my nails done here. I get my eyelashes done here. I get my hair done here. I go to the Grange and I'm a member, and sometimes I'm able to make it to the art shows. I love North Pole. But I got to tell you something. When I look at 2317, and then I look at there was a group that brought me a FOIA request that had all the tickets. And when I looked through that, I was like, I don't know if I want to go to Safeway in North Pole anymore. In fact, I'm kind of worried about even going into North Pole because, wow, some $500 tickets for a headlight. And I was just kind of blown away. That's a little beyond my ability to pay. And I don't know. I mean, I get the incentive is to give people an incentive to fix their cars. But when you figure that the average family gets paid probably every 2 weeks, not weekly. So if you get that ticket like on a Thursday and you've already paid the GBA bill, you're going to have a hard time coming up with the money before the next paycheck to pay a $500 fine. That's what I saw on some of those tickets. And I would encourage you to take a look, at some of the tickets that have been written and some of the fines. I think you folks have plenty of power. There seems to be quite a bit of ticket writing. I think the question is, there's apparently some other motivation behind that ordinance, and I get it. Revenue is a good thing, but there's many other ways to get revenue besides using your police force to kind of shake down folks. And it kind of looks, I know that's not the intent, but it's the feel that it gives. And it's that feel that you get that determines, where you go and where you spend your money and what you do. And I get that you want to get more revenue, and that's fine. But if people have second thoughts now about shopping in North Pole, what's going to happen to your sales tax revenue? I mean, you're trading one revenue source for another. So I really would encourage you to really give some thought. Usually vehicle violations, a vehicle like a tail, like a headlight or something, that's usually economic stress of a household. That's not somebody maliciously out there, just I'm gonna be, evil Knievel of the road. That's not what the motivation is. When people are in that position, there's some economic stressors in that household, and adding a ticket doesn't help those economic stressors. So I would just hope and encourage that next week when you do vote, you give some thought to the least of these and the least person, and give some thought to how people who live maybe just outside of the city but could choose to go into Fairbanks just as easily to shop, how that might affect your sales tax revenue. So it's no good having one revenue measure if it's just going to kill another. All right, thank you. And I really hope you don't pass it because I really enjoyed coming into North Pole. I really have.
Ooh, are there any,
questions?
yeah,
Any questions, council? Seeing none? Okay, thank you, Barbara.
And I look forward to seeing any of you at the Borough Assembly.
Okay, thank you.
are there any other citizens that haven't signed up for public testimony that would like to speak? Thank you. If you just say your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Sandra Rolfe. I live here in the city of North Pole. I moved out here about 9 years ago. I actually live in the city limits now, and I really love living in the city limits of North Pole. I've spoken to quite a few individuals about the new ordinance that's come up, and just the remarks that I get back are just a negative view of our police department out here. I personally have a very positive view of them, as I live in the city. They come through our neighborhood fairly often. And whenever they see my kids out playing, they'll stop and they'll offer them stickers. For Halloween night, when we were out, they do Operation Glow, and we had about 3 or 4 different officers offer glow sticks. So my family has a very positive relationship with the police force and police officers here. And I'm just afraid that this ordinance that I don't see what it's bringing to the city is only going to impact it more and increase the negative view that people have. And instead of people choosing to come here and spend time and money here, they're going to be going to Fairbanks and not out here. So I just asked the council to reevaluate it, and not only, what is it doing, but how is this going to impact the view that everybody has of your police force? Because adding impounds and high fees that people can't afford and then can't get their vehicle back is highly going to impact people's view of the police force out here. So,
Any questions, council? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Are there any other citizens that would like to speak publicly this evening? Thank you. If you would just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Corey Montague. And I live outside city limits, but I travel in here frequently. I just want to say, I love North Pole. I wish we didn't have such high taxes, but I understand we got to pay the bills. My big concern with this ordinance is not just what it's going to do to the community, plus the people that can't afford to pay these fines or to get their car fixed on time, but the example it sets. Now, I retired from the U.S. Army about 9 years ago, and I stayed here, made this place my home. One of the things I can tell you about where I lived before moving here, I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And you could always tell what time of the month it was because the cops were out getting tickets, okay? I don't want that to happen here. So please, I ask you to please don't pass this. That's all.
Council, any questions? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Are there any other citizens thank you. Please come up and state your name for the record.
My name is Eileen Cotter, and I live on Brock, which is out of the city limits. But I just wanted to say that, we teach our children to respect the law and we want them to have a fear, but a respectful fear of the law because we want them to obey the laws, right? So with the ordinances, the way that they're coming down, especially this one, my granddaughter's just turned 18. She just got her own car. And to have to warn her, it's gone too far with the 7 days. That's just ridiculous. And because she doesn't have a job yet, and I'm not, nothing's wrong. She hasn't done anything wrong or anything. That's not what I'm doing, but I'm just saying that this ordinance has got them, all of the young adults, in an uproar. And I don't know why they're not here, because I have told them to come here to say their 2 cents worth. But everybody, they're working or I'm busy. Anyway, but I want them to know that they have a say in what goes on. And if you guys would listen to the majority of what's happening, that this ordinance is just, there's no grace in it at all. And I understand about, I mean, I get mad at people too when they're driving around with one headlight, but we have to realize that, maybe they just don't have the money to fix it yet. The headlights these days aren't cheap. Not like you 20 bucks like it was in the old days. So I don't know. I wish that you guys would just think about it a little bit more and be more graceful, because I want my daughter, my granddaughter to, and her friends to respect and not be in an ungodly fear, but be in a godly fear of the authority. That's all.
Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you want to leave me the dog, I'll take her. Ella? Anytime you want to leave me the dog, I'll take you. Yeah, yeah. I know, every time we see one another, I always want him, don't I?
Do we have any other citizens here that would like to publicly testify this evening? I would just like to invite everybody to come to the work session that is scheduled February 5th at 6 p.m. prior to the 7 p.m. council meeting. The work session is to discuss this ordinance, and you're all welcome to attend.
And those young people that you're trying to invite, have them if they're available. We did have that one young man who came and spoke up. So that's what we'll put forth again, February 5th at 6:30.
6 p.m. for the
6
work
p.m.
session.
For the work session, excuse me.
And then nobody else to publicly testify today? Mayor Pro Tem Clack, that brings us to communications from department heads and the borough representative.
Okay. Let's call on Chief Heineken, please.
Good evening, council members and public. It's kind of nice to have an audience to hear my report and hear me brag about the fire department.
Yes.
It's been a busy start to this year for the fire department, and been extremely busy today, actually. So I got a couple things to report. The one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is during the preparation work for this new fire department apprentice that will be coming on in July. We realized pretty quickly that our current ordinance of employee categories, the apprentice really doesn't fit into a current category that we have in ordinance. So we've actually been in communication with the city attorney just to look at the different options that we would have. And right now we're looking at just a couple different options. And I just wanted to kind of put those out there. You're more than welcome to reach out to me later and discuss these in full. We haven't made any type of decision exactly which route to go, but I just felt this would be appropriate for the council to, to hear. And if you have any input, feel free to reach out to myself anytime in this next week or two. The options we're kind of looking at is, right now we would virtually have to put them into the full-time category, is the only category that they would really fit in. And that wasn't really the intent of creating these apprentice, this 12-month apprenticeship. and we didn't budget to do so. So if we did leave it in that full-time category, it would probably limit us, instead of hiring the 3 that would do the 12-month, we would probably have to limit it to 2 budget-wise to be able to afford the rest of the entire benefit package that would come with it. One of the other options that we have on the table is we could actually look again to do a PERS amendment similar to what we did a few years ago, where we would have to file paperwork with the state. The council would have to put together a resolution asking there's a newly created position in the city, and we could do a PERS amendment that would basically not require us to have them in the PERS program. And then the third option that we were looking at is leaving them in PERS instead of doing the amendment, but create a 6th category. If you look at our current categories, there's 5 categories. If we had the city council by ordinance create a 6th category for the apprentice, which, to be honest, I think that's what I would recommend. No matter which way we go, we need that category of employee. And in that, we could put some language in there similar to some of our other categories that would exempt them from the majority of the benefit package that our permanent full-time employees enjoy, but would leave them in the PERS system, that would be required under our current PERS agreement, is the way we're looking at it. So like I said, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's something that we're working on. We haven't come up with an actual avenue of direction at this point, but I welcome your guys' input if you have any for me. Next on my list here is last week I was able to meet with Fairbanks North Star Borough's plating officer, George Steffen, and I discussed with him our future plans for this new fire station. And when we did this plan, we realized that Emily's got it on the screen here, that there is a cul-de-sac that legally exists right in the center of our parking lot at the fire station. Most people don't realize there's a cul-de-sac even there, because the road makes the corner from First, makes the left-hand corner to Lewis Street, and then it just appears that that's the fire station parking lot. But legally, that is a cul-de-sac. It does have setbacks. So this is the version, the current, I don't want to get away from the mic, but the upper left is the current fire station, and the upper right is the proposed where a new fire station would be positioned. And obviously, it is within the setback and within the cul-de-sac. So the city, we do own all the lots that adjoin that cul-de-sac. The plating officer thought this would be a pretty straightforward change to have it to go through and basically vacate that cul-de-sac. And what we would do is redistrict some of the multiple parcels that are in there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 showing, and then the Public Works building is on a 7th parcel that's below that map there. The city owns all of those, and we probably would have them divide that into probably 3 different parcels that would, as you can see, the one cuts right through the current fire station. It would behoove us at that time to actually have the property line adjusted to where it didn't, cross right through the middle of the building. But the end goal is that we would vacate that cul-de-sac, and that would just become part of the parcels and allow this plan to go forward with the new fire station.
Chief, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just vacate all the property lines and just make it one piece of one parcel?
We could, when we're talking with the borough, I mean, they did, they're always looking way long-term. They said in 100 years, what would this do if the city wanted to, to vacate one of the buildings, sell it? If maybe it might not meet the mission 100 years from now, and it would be easier if we did leave, specific buildings on their own parcels, possibly. We don't envision any time in the near future for sure that the city would need to. That'd be the only advantage to dividing them up. But yes, that is one option, is to make it one large parcel that the city owns.
I don't see us ever selling any of those properties. It's a key location for city services.
I agree. The next step in the process is to actually use a surveyor that would help us through the process. Would have to do the surveying portion, obviously, and I have a feeling they'll probably have some recommendations on what might be best. So But I wanted to bring this to your attention now, because we're working through this process, and then, the council will have to approve the vacancy of that cul-de-sac in the end, because it is public property. The streets are considered public property, so it would come before you, to allow you to do this. It's kind of,
To be the applicant.
yes, yeah.
Did Mr. Stepan explain to you the timeline that this process takes?
Yeah, he did. And, it'll take definitely, multiple months. That's why we definitely want to get going with it. I don't think we're gonna have funding and breaking ground, in April or anything. So I think we do have time to make this happen.
2025?
Yes, yeah, that's the goal. So,
Chief, the cost to vacate that, have you called any
I have
surveyors?
reached out to one that was on the list so far, and I haven't had a response. So yeah, at this time, I don't have any estimates on costs.
Would be good to know
Yep.
just what that cost might
Yeah.
be for the vacation.
Yeah, and as soon as I have that, I can get back with you on that. So, yep.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a couple more things real quick.
Okay.
I'm not quite done yet.
Oh, no, I mean on that.
I
Any
could-
other questions on?
One more real quick thing. Like I said, today's been really busy. As you all know, we do an annual Firefighter One Academy that's a joint venture with UAF CTC, where we train our students along with community college students here at the fire station. So that class for the spring is starting tonight. It just started tonight at 6 o'clock. And then also, Emergency Region EMS does a lot of the EMT classes that we have for the borough. One of their classes that we have, I believe, 3 or 4 students in, started tonight as well. And because a majority of that class was North Pole people, and the instructors were also from North Pole, they had called and asked if they could move that class to North Pole. So it is meeting tonight as well for their first meeting at the station as we speak. So as always, we are constantly training. I wish we had a larger parking lot, because it's hard to fit all those cars sometimes when we're doing these types of trainings. But it's really exciting to see all these new people in the emergency services in our station, excited and energetic, ready to train. So it's been a really busy day getting prepared for that. And then the last thing I have to report today is in the middle of trying to get prepared for these classes, we had our first significant fire of 2024 that happened about 4 o'clock this afternoon. We had a resident on Lake Drive today that had an extremely close call. We were responding to a possible vehicle fire that had spread to the structure. We had a vehicle that was parked approximately 8 to 10 feet away from the house, had a tote of fuel in the bed of the bed of the pickup, and it had ignited, was actively burning and spilling fuel when our crews arrived on scene. And the side of the house was starting to become involved, was severely scorched. Really close call. They did lose the vehicle, a little bit of damage to another vehicle adjacent, and some damage to the side of their home. But tonight they are able to rest in their own beds in their home, safe from fire. And I really want to emphasize the importance of your fire department and the true value of your fire department. Tonight was a perfect example. 2 minutes longer without getting water on that fire. And I have no doubt that fire would have been in the gable end of that end of the building that was on fire, in the attic, in the roof, and it would have taken the roof off of that building. And, and who knows at what level we would have been able to stop it at. So, my crew did an amazing job tonight. Thank you very much for that. I'll thank the crew. It was not me. It is absolutely my staff. Without a doubt. They performed flawlessly. They made a fast response, made a quick attack, and saved this home tonight. So, we're extremely proud of the crew in the height of a very busy day, to have, the real important things that we do happen, putting these fires out. So, and with that, I can take any other questions.
Questions? Seeing none. Chief, I do want to give your crew an excellent praise for being there and responsive. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
tell them thank you very much.
I absolutely will.
Okay. Have a good
Thanks.
one.
You too.
Annie.
Thank you, Ms. Clack.
You're welcome.
We never know who's going to get picked next.
I
So
know.
that's good. I'll cover two special topics and then I'll talk about the three departments within the Director City Services. Again, my name is Danny Wallace. I'm the Director of City Services for the City of North Pole. For Moose Creek, we continue to push forward with this effort to bring clean water to 200+ residences in the Moose Creek area. And right now, we're in the final stages of the project. And as most of you know, it ends on March 31st of this year. And contract modification number 29 has just been approved by the Corps of Engineers. And this came in just this afternoon, Ms. Clack. This increases the overall project ceiling by $119,000 and allows us to cover expenses for HC contractors for parts and work that was done this summer, to Respect Engineering for project management, and for the city for the time spent on the project. This does not cost the city anything, but it will require your signature on to accept that money for the project. This is routine. Again, this is number 29 this is the 29th modification to that project. Tomorrow, we'll be hosting a virtual meeting concerning emerging contaminants with staff members from the Air Force, the state of Alaska, the EPA, and Fairbanks North Star Borough. And we'll be discussing PFAS in the area and other things that will affect North Pole. This is an informal staff level discussion that will talk about monitoring efforts, predictions on future contamination, and potential mitigation options. Myself and Ms. Clack will sit in on this meeting. And for reference, the state of Alaska, if anyone needs to know more information on the status of contaminants within the North Pole area, the state of Alaska has a very good PFAS page. If you just Google Alaska DEC and PFAS, that has a lot of very relevant information on what's going on in the area. And then also we've posted information on our own website about PFAS within the area. And this certainly remains a key concern area and a key topic for discussion with all of those partners. For Public Works, we've done our 5th snow plowing of the year, finished it today. It started at about 2 a.m. For city streets, and Public Works continues to work on the sidewalks. When I talked to Cody today, he said they had done them 3 times today because DOT, we have a good working relationship with them, but DOT has to plow its roads and they will come and plow their roads and they cover up our sidewalks. But we have great crosstalk with DOT on snow plowing efforts. And we haven't planned another, even though it snowed, again, it kept snowing today, we haven't planned another plowing. Most of the roads throughout the city seem pretty good, but we are ready to do that if needed. So if we do get more snow or if there's a need to plow, we're ready to go. We just won't start tomorrow morning. At the very earliest, we'd start on Thursday morning. You'll see some additional holiday decorations in front of the city hall. We had blow-ups there, and now we've got some more permanent structures there. Our Public Works artisans, we call them their elves, continue to work to make the city shine during these dark winter nights. And another item of note is we'd have issues with the fire alarm system here at City Hall. It is operational, but the trouble lights continue to go off, and we're working through that with Johnson Controls to solve that issue. For the building department, we continue to see a few building permits for indoor work to include the old Pizza Hut building on Santa Claus Lane. And we expect an increase in applications as we move into the spring. And for utilities, no significant issues to report, although the most significant item right now is something that we have on the agenda concerning the efforts to address our failing downtown water main system. But other than that, I don't have anything subject to council questions.
Any questions? Steve? Larry, excuse me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The light pole that DOT hit down in the roundabout, has that been corrected or are we still waiting on parts?
The light bulbs, and when they did the project, we made a lot of effort to try to get extra light bulbs. The light bulbs have to be ordered. They take 6 to 8 weeks to come in. Again, they didn't have a spare. So that particular pole is sitting with DOT, and they're actually going to take it over to our light pole painting contractor, to Graham Construction, who we have a contract with to do the rest of the light pole. So we're trying to save a little bit of money. Right now, it's not scheduled to go back up for the next few weeks until we get all those parts. And also, we're going to make a decision on whether or not we paint that prematurely and then try to get that up with the first batch. We do have a plan to repaint the rest of the light poles. That's on glide path, and that was in the budget. But that certainly won't happen until there's not a significant need for light at night here. So
So the breakaway box that's been covered so that snow removal crews don't accidentally bump into it.
That's something I do need to check. They had done the North Star or DOT was supposed to cover it, and I think it has been covered. But I'll check. I'll verify that. So.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Thank you, Danny. Chief Dutra. Come on down.
So a little dusting up on the proposed ordinance. I did offer, as Tammy brought up, I did offer to speak with anybody that's willing to chat with me, and nobody's taken me up on that. So I'm open to have any conversations with folks about this. They can know the council was inundated with emails, and I was too. It's like you just can't answer everybody's emails. We're just I got a lot going on. So if people want to come chat, I'd be happy to do so. So
Thank you for the offer.
yeah, you're welcome. Maggie and I are working on a new job description for the recruit police officer position. As you know, we run into a significant budget crisis for the last recruit we sent down. So we've got a solution in place that follows FLSA, and we're working on that to hopefully bring that to the council soon. So shop the cop. I don't know, Councilman Church brought that up. I was not here for it. I was gone for quite a bit of time, but extremely successful event. We had 8 officers participate. So you figured what we've got, 12, 13 on staff, 8 of them participated. I wasn't here, and I'm sure there was someone else may have not. So that's a pretty good participation rate for the officers. They all volunteered to do that. So kudos to them. We had 9 kids show up, and of course it's a 3-4 hour event with the shopping and the transporting and the wrapping of presents and the food. And so it's kudos to my staff for doing that. And I just wish I could have been here for that, because I just love Shop the Cop. It's always a tremendously successful event. So hats off to them. We did do a coffee of the cop on December 9th with troopers in town at Jeans Chrysler. So pretty well attended from my understanding. Again, I wasn't here for that, but the officers here did a good job, and AST did a great job hosting that event. So we will be sending a public safety assistant and an officer to the Interior Solid Waste Recycling Symposium on the 19th at the Carlson Center. So we'll be doing a drug take back. Already got that covered. So thanks for bringing that up. Do show up. We'll be doing collecting drugs at that event, handing out the brochures and talking to the public and sharing, ideas about things. And people are happy to come talk to the folks we have there representing the department. So, so that's all I got. Unless you have any other questions of me.
Council, any questions? Seeing none? Thank you, Dutra.
Ooh, so Tricia, the finance director, she has an excused absence, but I would like to throw out a fun fact that Tricia shared with me. On January 16th, 1953, the city of North Pole was incorporated or established. So happy birthday to North Pole, and thank you, Tricia, for the institutional knowledge. Really, I want to thank Tricia for all the institutional knowledge she shared since Maggie and I started. She's done a great job of holding things together out here in North Pole through the passage of many clerks. And then also, John came out from AUP. He fixed the audio. We won't have the audio feedback problem. Chandra asked me to get a quote for a new system if, say, this just went out tomorrow. So John is working on a quote for that, but for now he has all the work throughs that will make our audio workable. We have all the workarounds. And yeah, can't think of anything else to report.
Question.
Yep.
Any questions of? Yes, Jeff.
I thought that our system was relatively new. So to say that we need to replace it.
No, John didn't say it needs to be replaced. Chandra asked me to get a quote in case it needed to be replaced. He did say it's an older model, so the power it's not a turn off and turn on unit. It loses all its programming when the power is off, so that's why the lights are always red. But it's not live, it's not recording. I'm not streaming every time anybody walks in here. I have to go and set it all up. So when the lights are red, it's because we have an older model, newer unit. But it's still completely workable. There's no end of life that is related to it, but just we'll have it on record. If something goes wrong, we'll know what it costs to replace.
We noticed
Thank you.
that the pitch, depending on somebody's pitch, these would come on. So we were like, okay, is that on over there? And she went and took, and she said, no, it's not. But just a certain pitch that would come in the room, it would bring all of these on or none. So you could tell now. But earlier when she was speaking, at least two of these mics came off. Okay.
Have an HR report?
Oh.
Or was that the HR report?
So Maggie works in the clerk's office. There isn't a department head report for the HR. But Maggie is a fast code reader and she's doing a great job.
Oh. So the question on that would be our, what is that? The training. Can she elaborate, or can you elaborate how the training came across for all the staff? Did she get 100%, or are we still missing on training?
I don't have the exact numbers, but on day one, 40% had reported completion, and I haven't followed up. I think she sent it out last Monday. We haven't followed up, but people have been responding to following the code required training.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I was just gonna thank the Maggie for sending out that required training for harassment and anti-bullying that we enacted in code last year. Last year we had to watch hours of videos and take tests, so it was great this year that we're able just to read and refresh what the code says and also what examples of good behavior versus bad behavior is. And I thought that was great way to refresh all of us. And I appreciate that she's jumped right on that and got that taken care of at the beginning of the year.
She needs a cape.
Should it be red?
Let's see. So that's did you have a report, Chandra, from the borough representative?
Borough Representative Chandra was the borough rep this time. With that being said, the things that I found of interest for us, and I know that it's gone on the news a couple times, which was very exciting. And with that, Hank was there, and Jerry, and I believe another gentleman was there for that. That it had to do with public hearing, ordinance number 2023-65, which had to do with an ordinance authorizing the mayor to lease by compensation compose process the portion of acreage 19 on track B-1-A for the subdivision known as the Newbie Park. So hearing the public testimony that night was quite interesting in the history. And if I recall right, Hank, you had a part in putting that park together, if I correctly. Yes. And I believe Jerry did as well. So that was good to hear the history on that park. And so that vote came to 9-0. The other ordinance that I found quite interesting, which goes into the planting board. So that ordinance is ordinance 2023-66. That vote was 8-1. And what I liked about that is they were trying to make it a quorum. So with it being a quorum, making it 9 people, but having 5. Hold on, I'm looking at my numbers here because I have them in 2 spots. So he was trying to round it off to 9. So making it where it'll be 4 people to make it a quorum, and 1 if need be, making it 5, if I understood that correctly. Because sometimes he says that it's hard to have a number like 9 and still be able to have enough people to make a quorum for this planning board committee. And the Fairbanks Police Department or City Hall, what they end up doing is they are going to go ahead and use the Boys and Girls Club and turn it into a daycare facility. They're going for 6 weeks to age 5. They're going to start with the city of Fairbanks employees. to utilize that first, and whatever space may be left, go ahead and farm out to the public. So they're hoping to start off with at least 32 children. With that being said, the other thing I thought was a good perk was they have 5 people in the call center now, where when Mayor Pruz was giving his presentation on it was only 2 people in the call center, which was kind of like, wow, that's kind of a low number for the calls that are coming in for fire and police. And as he would say, kind of like, oh, we've got a whole lot of calls and pulling their hair out a bit. So I really liked hearing that they've got 5 people in there and they're getting along. Camaraderie is really great, and they're able to get all the calls done and taken care of in a timely manner. And that's all I have for you from the board. Any questions? Okay, seeing none.
There was nothing for ongoing projects this evening. An unfinished business is blank, which brings us to new business. Ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance to accept Board of Adjustment duties from the Fairbanks North Star Borough to hear and decide appeals of certain land use decisions for land located within the city of North Pole.
Oh,
Is
the-
there anybody that would like to speak publicly to this ordinance? Looks like Tammy Wilson.
Amy Wilson, I just wanted to put on record that Assemblymember Tlojeski and I was the last ordinance that we got passed. I thought it was much more important for North Pole than Fairbanks, even though I know Fairbanks wanted it. And the reason is, and Councilmember Jacobson really said it clear, that position on the planning board has been empty for a long time, even though we changed it now to anybody basically in the 99705, which is a pretty big section. In fact, there should probably be 2 seats for the North Pole areas. We are the growing area of this community. I can't remember ever having one for the city of North Pole, but I would know that if I was a resident in the city and I got denied by the planning commission, especially, and I don't believe there's anybody on the planning commission right now from the 99705. I can say that definitively, but I would have thought they've gotten moved over so that we can do it. So there's like nothing. So I go in with my case, I lose because maybe they just don't understand, different things that happen here. So I don't think you're going to end up giving a lot of time or a lot of cost. Because like I said, I really can't remember the last time most of it is zoning changing is usually where it comes into, like somebody's been agriculture and then all of a sudden they've sold and now they're saying they're not agriculture. We had one where the most recent one, it was up in the Chena area, somebody bought a home and they were turning it into a rehab center. And the community was upset and didn't want to, so they appealed that portion of it. So I honestly can't even remember the last one. There was one in the city of Fairbanks, but I just think residents here believe that you guys would have they might not like the outcome, but I think you guys can go and look and know the people, know the properties and the history, which was kind of what was really cool about the park, is you got to hear the history that goes with it. A lot of times that part gets missed when it comes to this. So I really hope you take on this power. We thought it was also very important for you to have that option. So if for whatever reason you chose not to do it, it was your choice. But I really do believe that the residents would think that was a great thing for you to take on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Did anyone have questions for Tammy? Is there anybody else who would like to publicly testify?
Anybody online?
And I have nobody online at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Move to introduce and advance ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance to accept the Board of Adjustment duties from the Fairbanks North Star Borough to hear and decide appeals of certain land use decisions for land located within the city of North Pole.
Second.
Okay, on ordinance 20.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion.
Oh, thank you,
please.
Jeff.
I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Chandra Clack sponsoring this with me. I recall a situation that happened quite a few years ago. But if you think of Fifth Avenue, right before you get to the Assembly of God Church, I believe it is, right there on the intersection of St. Nicholas Drive and Fifth Avenue. there is a long white building that's on Fifth Avenue. And it had been vacant for many years, and a couple bought it, and they were doing some remodeling, and they turned it into kind of like a spa salon where they were doing health, fitness, sun tanning, nails, hair. People could also, because they were spending a lot of time there, have order food and all that. Well, it wasn't zoned for that kind of activity. It was zoned as a residential. And it went before the planning commission, and they denied the rezone. And that business was forced to go out of business. And it was a tragedy because it was a growing entity, and it really brings home the fact that every now and then it would be nice to be able to weigh in on something that the planning commission does not get right. So I would encourage my council members to vote for approval when it comes up for adoption at our next meeting in February, because it's good to have that ability to help our businesses and also our residents when they need help.
Is there any more discussion?
One-
Yep.
One question, now, this is just to take care of North Pole, right? We don't have to deal with Fairbanks, right?
No.
Correct.
City limits only.
Us. Okay.
Yes, Larry.
From a Realtor standpoint, my only concern for this would be if we went against borough ordinances or requirements for groundwater protection, some sort of zero lot line, some sort of setback, which would cause whoever owned that not to be able to sell it in the future because it's essentially not properly grandfathered by the borough. Would be my only sort of hold up and scenario play by play. If that was to come into effect, how would that be addressed?
That's why I said that if we take on this power, we would have to get legal counsel.
Right.
We would have to have someone explain the nuances of the issue so that as we hear the appeal, we can make an informed decision and know what the future possible ramifications are. Because we're not experts. And so, we're going to have to be schooled up every time there's an appeal to us. But again, it's going to be very infrequent because it's only when an applicant is unsuccessful at the planning commission level that they have a recourse to come to us and say, they denied it. We would like you to consider it. And we hear their thing. And also we could get all the tapes and all the information from the borough and be able to digest it before they come to us. So we have a good understanding of that. But I agree with you, land ownership and the restrictions or the overlays and all those things are very important and have long-term effects on the value of the land, the sale of the land, the transfer of the land, what you can build on it, do with it. So it is a complicated realm.
Double-edged sword a little bit. Yeah, certainly.
They do send pretty specific, you have to do this, these are your requirements. You can't drive by the property before you discuss it. So they send pretty specific instructions for the council prior to the quasi judicial hearing. But yeah, like Trisha, who shared all that institutional knowledge, it sounds like somebody came here a couple of years ago and they wanted to change the name of the road out here after all the carries moved. And the borough said, you don't have the ability to change that. It's not your right anymore. So the borough denied it. So it's things like that, like little road changes that only affect the city of North Pole. Those are kind of nice things that the council can then go back to controlling. You could say no, but you also have the ability to say, we approve it.
I did not know that there was a,
Chris shared it with us in the department head meeting. And I think that came up because the reason in 2016, I think you might have been at the city with me, Jeff, but there was a Terminal Street. They wanted to change Terminal Street to 907. And the city of Fairbanks said, nope, you're not changing the name. And then the Fairbanks said, well, we're taking away your ability to make those changes. So they're just going back in 2016 when we said, they said, you can't do that anymore. They're just giving back the city of Fairbanks and the city of North Pole the ability to make decisions in your own city limits. Yeah, so this would only affect North Pole proper, Benny.
Okay. Would, one of us could be on that, or maybe a civilian?
You hear it as a council, so the planning commission from Fairbanks North Star Borough would send, you guys are going to need to talk about this. We'd put it on the agenda and then we'd notice for it. And you guys would all, the council, you make the decisions.
we are the Board of Appeals, the city council.
Oh, so I couldn't be on, like,
If you were on the, if you wanted to be on the Borough Planning Commission, you could not sit on the Board of Appeals as a council member.
I would be on the Board of Appeals, because
Yeah,
I think that would be more better for me.
right. So.
Right, like what Jeff was saying, you'd have to recuse yourself from voting if you were on the planning commission because you'd have a conflict.
I'll stay here with us.
Yeah, us are good. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none?
On the motion to advance ordinance 2024-01, Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes,
and Mr. Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the request to council for the water main replacement design loan acceptance.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Just a synopsis. This is a loan to address a critical need for the city, which is to redesign and potentially replace its aging water system. This is a loan through the state of Alaska for 20 years. The loan interest rate is 1.3%, and there's a finance charge of 0.5%. The loan amount is up to $653,000, although the city is not obligated to take that much money. Depending on if we get grant or other types of support that can be used to pay down this loan. This loan, if the full amount is used, the annual payments will be about $38,000 a year. Again, I recommend to the council that we accept this loan. The process will be that the mayor pro tem will sign the loan. It'll go back to the state of Alaska. And then after we've chosen a vendor, which will have to be approved by the an engineering firm, which would have to be approved by the council. After that point, then we will start work with them, request disbursement of loan funds, and the loan funds will not have to start being paid back until 12 months after we get that first disbursement. So I'll answer any council questions or leave it to the council for action.
Full loan is for how much now?
$653,000.
Okay.
Are there any questions of the public? Or
yeah.
Danny, would you mind letting somebody come up in public and testify? Sandra, while you're back, how do you spell your last name?
Yeah, it's spelled ROLFE.
Thank you.
And I just had a quick question. I know that the our last election had a loan on the ballot.
This
and
is it.
This is it. Okay, that was what my question was. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Is there anybody else for public testimony or comment? Council members?
Seeing none? Wait a minute, Jacobson?
Well, move to approve the acceptance of the loan.
I'll say I'll second.
You have a second?
So,
Oh, did you second it?
yeah, I did.
Okay. And the reason being is that we need to get a design for this water replacement, and it would be great to get free money to do it, grant money, and we still may get that, but we can't wait for that to happen. So we're not going to necessarily spend all $653,000. When we put this out to bid, we'll find out what it's going to end up costing us, and that's what we're going to be borrowing from the state to pay for the design of this thing. But gets the ball rolling. And then once we have a design, that's when we can also go out for, again, grant money, because we now have a plan. It's been engineered, it has a cost, and we can say, we need help with it. And so this is a critical step, and the voters of the city approved us taking out a loan, which is what is required by our charter. Anytime that the city borrows money, the voters have to approve it, which they did. And so this is in our best interest to move forward with this next phase of the replacing the aging city water main lines.
I do have some concerns for the loan and for the design project. I agree with Jeff. I think it's a great idea. My concern is for the 20 years ago, had we done this, we've expanded now to Moose Creek. We're down Badger Road 7 miles. We can get the design plan for the next 2 years, but what happens if the PFAS affects our water table, and now we're going out to somewhere else and having to expand that water main project, and the plans that we spent $653,000 on are essentially $400,000 wasted.
No. No, it's two different systems. If I might.
Danny, can you come up? Yes, please come to the mic, Danny.
Go ahead. You're the subject matter expert.
So, and we certainly are looking at what would happen if we would have to do Moose Creek 2 or Moose Creek 3, because the eastern part in the 99705 area would certainly be affected by PFAS, and there may be an expansion, but what we're replacing is the center of the city, and the water is treated in the center of the city. And this system that we're replacing feeds everything. It feeds the northern expanse, and it feeds Moose Creek. So this plan, regardless of our expansion, we don't anticipate that this money would be wasted. If we did have to expand to the east, there may be a need for additional wells. So you would have another water system potentially that would be put to the north of the Richardson, to the northeast of the city. So we've sort of sat down and war gamed, hey, how would this play out? But what we're asking you to do is to replace the system that feeds the city core within city limits of the current water customers that we have. And right now, all of that water, what we'd be replacing, does feed that northern expansion. It does feed Moose Creek, and it would feed at least a limited expansion. We have some capacity in the system for some expansion already, so that still would be able to be integrated into those future plans. So we anticipate that this is not something that would be a waste of funds. It certainly would be supportive of future efforts too. So that's, I'll let Jeff, if you have anything else.
And Larry, you're absolutely right. Pretty much every municipality that builds something, whether it's a road, a bridge, a building, a sewer system, a water system, they invest a lot of money in it. And rarely do we put money in a savings account for 20, 30, 40 years down the road to be able to replace it or fix it. We don't have that long range vision, and oftentimes it's because we're constrained financially. So I agree with you. Had we tackled this decades ago, it would have been cheaper. We wouldn't be in this predicament where we're fearful that we're going to have a failure in the main core of our city with these pipes that are 40, 50 years plus, and they're past their life expectancy. And I think it's just the frozen ground that's keeping the pipes together, to be honest. But it's, as a council, we need to look at all of our infrastructure and have a plan. And when we have a budget, we should be putting money in reserve accounts for replacement of different things so that we have the ability to replace things or fix them when it happens. We're never going to have enough money to put 100% in the bank for all the things that we have, but we should be putting something in a savings account instead of just spending everything to the limit. But we are, I think, in a good position financially where we can do that. It's just a matter of working with our staff and identifying what is the next thing that's on the list that we need to start worrying about.
As a redirect, I'm not concerned with the cost, and I understand that. My concern is the planning for the city's future, just inside the city, not too far away from here. We have Turner Street, we have Evelyn Avenue, we have all the expansion from everything, the old Dave Ainsley properties that are going to eventually be hooked to city water. I want to make sure that we go through a plan that supports these things as the city grows, as the water tables change, to make sure that as we go further into the future, we're prepared. So we're not having to go back 20 years from now and say, man, we really missed the ball on this. We should have been looking at this.
Well, I can tell you one, if I may.
Yes,
Madam
please.
Clerk. When I was mayor, when we expanded the water system into Highway Park, I made sure that that expansion was designed for future expansion. So we oversized the pump house in Highway Park. We put in connectors so that we could go underneath the highway. So we were doing some forward planning for expansion, and I would hope that our current Director of Public Services, as we are doing these projects, is looking at when we put something in, that we are looking down the road and saying, does it have the capacity for expansion? Do we need to upsize it a little bit? Do we need to add this little bit in there so that when we do it, we've got the infrastructure in place instead of having to restart all over again? So that has happened in the past where we do look for future needs and can build, things to that for that anticipation.
And with that being said, if you recall, the statement was that we have to try to take care of ourselves because Anchorage and Wasilla and all of those guys, their communities are beginning to take care of themselves. They're not reaching back into the legislation for funds. They are making suggestions that the communities try to look for grants and stuff, but yet at the same time, we do need to be able to put money away in order for these expansions and these repairs. And we need to do it and be prepared. So if we have to take a little bit at a time to do the repairs and try to get them done in a timely manner where we don't have a busted pipe, then that's what we'll have to try to do. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Okay, on the request for council to approve the water main replacement design loan acceptance, Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
and Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Okay, that passes, and that brings us to council member comments. I guess I'll start. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came tonight and testified and shared their comments. As a council, we have questions ourselves about these ordinances, and that's why I asked for a work session on the 5th so that we'd have an opportunity to digest, why we're doing this and what's the benefit to this. And I can tell you that probably the sentiment on the council is that we're not going to be moving forward with adopting this anytime soon. So please go back to your group and say that, you know, we're putting a pause on this and we want to get all the answers to the questions that you've raised and that we have taken care of. And so because it's been scheduled, we still have to have the work session. We still have to have it on the agenda, but you don't have to worry that we're going to be adopting it on February 5th. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And so I think our only option is to basically vote it down, and then it will just go back to the police department, reworking it, answering our questions, and seeing if there's an interest to bring it back in an ordinance sometime in the future. But the current ordinance as we have it now is not going to go anywhere.
Thanks for your time.
And also, I'd just like to thank again Mayor Pro Tem Chandra Clack. She is working a full-time job here at City Hall while our mayor is recovering, and I just appreciate all the time that she puts into it and how she is helping our employees. We have a great city, and I'm thankful that she stepped up to the plate to be Mayor Pro Tem this year, and I'm not it.
Didn't I
Thank you.
try to put you back, right?
Mr. Williams?
Well, I think that the more data we have on anything we do, the better off we are. And if everybody's honest and upfront and don't try and come in the back door, just be upfront, I think that things will go a heck of a lot better for all of us. Because what is it? Education is power, right? Regardless of what we do. But the data, if we got the data, we good to go on everything we do. So we have to look at that. And what I heard is a lot of people brought some very interesting comments. So I'll be looking down the road, more ways than one. That's all I got to say. Oh, treat people the way you want to be treated. Remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Church?
I would like to again reiterate, everybody that came out, it's wonderful to see people here. It really is. It's nice to have opinions, and it's nice to voice those opinions in this forum. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for making your voices heard. Thank you, Chandra, for doing everything you're doing for the city. Our prayers go out to the Welches and hopes that he has a fast recovery and can get back to daily life so that Chandra can relax and enjoy her free time again. Other than that, just be careful driving out there. The roads are rather treacherous. We did have some freezing rain in Fairbanks this afternoon. We're in that time of season where we should all slow down. Not to quote J.B. Carnahan, but to quote him, the brakes are not your friends. And wipe off your taillights, turn on your headlights, do the simple things that make things easier for you to be seen. And with that, everybody have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Church. That brings us to Mayor Pro Tem Clack.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts on the violation of tickets and whatnot. And as Jacobson said, we will be talking about it. We're not trying to hide anything, and we're not trying to bring anything in the back door. We're just as curious and fascinated about certain things as the audience that came out tonight. I want to thank my council members for helping in walking me through all of these things that I've done for the last 30 days. So I want to thank my staff for their excellent job and my clerk who's keeping me on task. And I want everybody to have a good evening and drive home safely.
Move to adjourn.
A second.
All right.
I
That
did
closes us out at 8:30 this evening. Everybody have a wonderful night.
You too. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna try this one.
Jeff, thank you for bringing these in.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I sit on